Welcome to the show. I'm your host, the JUCE. Get ready for another fun, action-packed episode. You see, here on Chats, we try to bring you things that you can't get anywhere else. So today, we're going to feature the film Queen of the Damned, starring the late Aaliyah. Chris Shank, one of our West Coast partners out in California, had a chance to sit down with Jorge Saralegui, the film's producer, and we'll be sharing with you what he had to say. So don't go nowhere. We'll be right back here on Chats. Jorge Saralegui, the film's producer, had this to say about how he became involved and what attracted him to the project.
Queen of the Damned, Warner's gave me the book to read, and with the idea of my producing it if I had a sense of how to go about doing that. And I was very flattered that they had asked me to get involved with an Anne Rice project a couple of months after I got here. And then I read it and I saw why they came to me. It was a really hard job to figure out how to make a movie out of that novel. And that was the beginning of that long story. So there, it was really the challenge that attracted me.
Jorge also spent time on Warner Brothers' Queen of the Damned website's message board answering questions posted by fans. Check out what he had to say about that experience.
Like nothing I've ever done before. It was something that when I agreed, I volunteered to do it because I knew that there were message boards out there, fan sites, about this project, because it's the kind of thing that's very culty. The idea had been originally for me just to answer some questions and get out, get in, get out. What happened was, you start doing it, it's hard to stop, or it's hard for me to stop. People ask you more stuff and you want to respond. They're interested and you want to pay back that interest. They're worried about what you're doing and you want to reassure them that even if they don't like it, that you did your best. All that kind of stuff. And after a while, it was a phenomenon, okay, from the Warner Brothers perspective. They couldn't believe it. They were very happy at what I was doing. At that point, I was in. I could have gotten out, but at that point, it would have looked like I was bailing, I felt, on the audience. So in a weird way, you develop a rapport with the audience where you feel a connection and a loyalty. So even though at times people were being hostile and you can just say, well, screw that noise, I kind of felt like, no, hang in there and stick it out, and I did. But it was amazing.
We asked Jorge how the final version of the film stacked up to what he envisioned and his involvement with casting the actors.
I've never made a movie where I was completely satisfied with the results. There's always something that you wish you'd done more. Given how long you spend working on something, you're rarely satisfied. In this case, at the time, I wished that the relationship, the romance between Lestat and Jesse had worked out better. In retrospect, if I have any regret, it's that I think that the movie, even though people complained about how much we cut out, I actually think that we didn't cut enough stuff out. I think that we spread ourselves too thin, still trying to satisfy the Anne Rice audience, not realizing that you've already lost them to some degree because of how much you have changed, and that you should have just focused on one thing and really deliver that rather than going kind of piecemeal the way we did. To answer one of your next questions, if the part that I probably would change now is I would build up the subplot involving Akasha, Aaliyah's role, because she was terrific. Now that, at the time, we were aware of it, but we weren't aware of what you're going to need. Like, you're in the middle of it, like you start with a script that you're happy with, and then you're making the movie, it all looks good to you, so you can't tell at that point when it all cuts together, oh, I wish I had more of that kind of thing. Because as well as she was doing, the whole thing looked good to us. We were very happy with the process as we went along. With Queen of the Damned, I was very involved because that's one where the only person with any kind of a name in the United States is Aaliyah. And Warner Brothers recommended her to us, and Michael Rymer, the director, met with her, auditioned her, was impressed enough to take her on a flyer because she'd never done anything like this. It's a really hard role. And then, of course, she came in totally prepared and blew us away. But pretty much everyone else in this movie we hired because they did a good job auditioning, which sounds like, yeah, so what's so strange about that? That hardly ever happens. You hardly ever cast a movie based on on performance. You cast it on what's the biggest name you can find. You know, can you get Tom Cruise to be in this movie? No, you can't. Oh, okay. How about Kurt Russell? You know, or whoever. And you work your way down the list. We actually ended up casting it based on talent. And we did that because we had to. You know, in all honesty, we couldn't get Tom Cruise. He didn't want to do it, but.
Jorge fondly speaks of his memories of Aaliyah on the set.
She worked as hard as anybody I've ever met, and harder than anybody else did on this movie. She was extremely well prepared. She already knew a lot about Egyptology and about vampires. Those are personal interests of hers. But she developed her own accent with the help of a dialect coach who she brought on. She worked with about 4 different coaches: wire coaches, dialogue coaches, movement coaches. And when we had our first read-through, where everybody sits around in a circle and you just kind of read the script in kind of a very informal way, and actors usually don't want to be on the spot, and so they basically just read it kind of like this, blah, 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 and they don't put any emphasis into it. She was in character completely with her accent. She was just on another level from everybody else. One of the concerns that we had, never having worked with her, was, oh, she's a big music star, and you know that the cliche about music people always being late and self-indulgent and that kind of stuff. So we didn't know what we were going to be getting from her at that point. Nobody was more reliable. She was always on time, ready to do whatever we needed. Now, that said, what is it that I remember the most, or that felt the most like her? It's something that actually you'll see in the DVD, in some of the outtakes. And that's that her character is a very powerful character. She got the accent. She really becomes Akasha. Every time that the director would say cut, Aaliyah would always do something to let you know that she was back to being Aaliyah instead of being Akasha. She'd make a face. She'd scrunch up her nose. She'd stick out her tongue. She'd roll her eyes. She'd do something. As opposed to other actors who stay in character, or other ones who would just kind of like relax. She would like very overtly let you know, hi, it's me, I'm back.
Well, that's all the time we have, y'all. We hope that you enjoyed our glimpse into the film Queen of the Damned, starring the late, great Aaliyah.